What up? What up? What up? Thursday. Welcome to the Grid and Grind Show, brought to you by the Off the Bench Podcast Network. That's right. We are a network now. We've got shows, college baseball, college gymnastics, pros and joes, the Grid and Grind Show, and hopefully more to come. So appreciate everybody that's been supporting us, especially those sponsors. Chinook Seeds, the best seeds in the game, 8 flavors, mild to wild. It's college baseball season here in about 2 weeks. Valentine's Day doesn't just signify love. It signifies the start of college baseball. I'm excited for that. Go to your favorite convenience store, gas station, supermarket, you name it, they're there. Go to the snack aisle and don't pretend like y'all don't know where the snack aisle. Everybody out there knows where that snack aisle is. Get the best seeds in the game. Memphis City Design, get brands, gear, and logo on everything from shoes to underoos. Get your in off the bench gear while supplies last. Relief Chiropractic, Dr. Vic Robinson, singing his praises. I'm going to scream him from the mountaintops, man. The dude's got magic hands. He is rejuvenating people. He's adding years to their life. He's going to give you a free consultation. He's going to assess your needs, and he's going to provide a prescriptive, tailored, customized plan just for you. No out-of-the-box, cookie-cutter, turnkey, little rinky-dink program for all y'all jabronis out there. It's a real tailor-made program that's going to fit your needs. So go check them out. Go see them. And finally, Old Dominick Distillery. Experience 150 years of tradition in the heart of downtown Memphis. From bourbon to vodka, whiskey to gin, Old Dominick's got you covered. Stop in today for a tour or to pick up your favorite bottle. And as always, tell them the In Off the Bench crew sent you. And with that, I can keep the lights on for another day. The sponsors have been plugged, the bills have been paid, and now we got to get to the show. We've got 2 guests today. I'm full house today. We are continuing the trend of the Palm Beach Breakers takeover on the Grid and Grind Show. We have the owner and the coach who's joining us for a second time, Mr. Matt Hornaday. Matt, what up? What up?
What's up? How's it going, you guys?
And we're good. We're good. And we also have his counterpart, another Matt. He is Matt Evans, in charge of sponsorships and player management. We're going to get his story, and we're going to talk about the 2025 season, fellas. It's going to be a good one. And, you know, I'll start it off with this, Matt Hornaday, because I've been seeing you doing a lot of running out there. I mean, not just like a lot. I mean, like a shit ton of running. Like, what are we training for, bro? Are there dogs chasing you? Like, what's going on, man?
Not anymore. No more dogs are chasing me, but working on a half marathon. So
okay.
The Fort Lauderdale half marathon is in February, I think like 2 weeks out. So just training for that.
Do you have a time in mind, or are you just saying completion?
Sub 2 hours. Okay. Completion is already done. So that's easy. But trying to get it sub 2 hours.
What does that break down per mile? What are we looking at?
Under 9 minutes a mile. Right now, my pace is solid. The last one I ran, I got like an hour 50. So we should be able to maintain that sub 2. And if I can break an hour 50 and get into an hour and 40 something minutes, like that would be awesome.
Shit, man. I'm running 20 minutes a day because I got a dog. And when I got a dog, I was like, you know, I'm going to make a point. I'm going to be one of those guys that runs with my dog. So every day since I've had her, we run, but 20 minutes is about her threshold right now. And it's probably actually my threshold. I just blame it on the dog. But, you know, that's my claim to fame. I can give you 20 minutes a day. I can't give you 6 to 12 miles at a time. And don't even throw in 13 in there because that's not happening. But you, my friend, are ready. I seen it. You're ready. You're ready to go. So, like, you can be the best at running, and I'll give you that.
I kind of want to tell you, I think it's his video capturing of him coming into the gym. His setup was on par.
Hey, man, I make some calls. You set records. You got to make some calls. Matt called me out on that. He was like, looks like that was set up pretty well, huh?
Yeah.
I've been a little acting in there.
I mean, you don't become insta famous by not having those things preset. Like he knew what he was doing.
I mean, it looked good. It looked good for the gram. It was a good video. The sweat. I mean, I don't know that he did his whole run, but he modeled. No, I'm kidding.
They were spraying him before he came in there for sure. He was glistening.
The truth comes out.
I was like, dang, dude, this is a full on production of your end of the run. This is good.
He's got the scripting boards at home, how it all mapped out. He's like, all right, in scene 1, this is what we got. All right, I'm gonna come into the gym. As I'm coming in, I need you over here spraying me down. I need to look glistening.
No, it was good. It was good. It's a cool thing that he's doing, man. It's motivational for everybody, and it sets the tone. So
if you guys want to hear the crazy story about how it happened, I was in Miami for a conference, and usually if I can't do my normal workout routine, I'll just go for a run. Plan to do 3 miles, ended up doing like 5 and some change, and it felt fine. So then I'd actually posted on Instagram about it, asking people who've done it before, like, hey, thinking about doing a half marathon, like, what do I need to know? And so I had a couple people respond. And then the next day I was like, all right, let me try this again. So that day I was like, let's go for 8 miles and see how that goes. And then ended up being a whole half marathon. That was stupid. I was not prepared. I ended up damaging my phone. I had to fix my charging port on my phone because there was too much like sweat that got into that. I had no water. I didn't have the right shoes, but what I got was that I could do it. Right. And so after that, then it was like, okay, let's just actually train and try to get faster. So that's how it came about.
I mean, you can't be in grid and not have an idea what you're doing, man. Like, I feel like if you're in the sport, you got to be in it. And what I mean by in it is you got to be in the gym. You got to be out running. You got to be putting the miles in. You got to be putting the effort, the grit, the grind. All that work's got to go in, because you also got to stand up in front of people and be the face, and they got to believe like this guy knows what he's talking about a little bit, So, but Matt Evans, bro, first time on the show. We gotta get your fitness journey. Now, I do a lot of digging, and when I say a lot of digging, I just go to Instagram and everyone does the work for me.
Brother, you went deep. You went deep on the gram to get that photo.
I did. Now, so like the name is Retro Skier. I'm assuming the only thing that I can come up with is I see 0 pictures of actual skiing happening.
Yeah.
But what I'm assuming is you have a boat, or a boat, and you're on the water skiing, because my original thought was, all right, this is a snow skier, but I don't think that's the case.
Absolutely not, man. Snowboarder for life, dude. I can't stand skiers. But no, I'll tell you, I think so. The name Retro Skier, right? That's a quick story. I don't have many of those, which is going to be funny. But I think I started Instagram in 2016. So I was late to the whole Instagram, like, that culture. I was Facebook, whatever. I was probably holding on to MySpace. I don't know, dude. Like, as you can tell, like, I post stuff on Instagram, but like not really. And I don't have that time anymore. And I never really affected me. I posted some stuff. But I got on Instagram super late. And what was funny was originally I was like, dude, I had an idea. A friend of my first gym I went to created this clothing brand, and which I don't know if it's around or not anymore, but we went to his like Kickstarter launch. Mm-hmm. And so I really love snowboarding, and like, but I grew up always calling it, hey, we're just going skiing. Cause I was like, I grew up skiing, and I was like, but I snowboard. And so one of the board I've always wanted was an arbor board. And I also we had some old wooden skis like in my grandparents' basement that like my dad and I always have talked about like redoing and like using them or like whatever. And like, I just love that natural wood look on a snowboard. Like Arbor had a board. I think LibTech has a board that's like really, really nice. It's just like a wood deck. And I was like, dude, let's create a company where we redo that. And so, truth be told, the farthest it got was just the Instagram handle. And so like, I don't know. I just never changed it to @Matt Evans, like the most generic name ever. No. So like, No, I had that idea that I was going to do that. And like, I really liked that whole culture. Like I really, I lived out in West for a while, so I rode snowboards every weekend, like just go to the mountain every weekend. So that was like a big thing. I was like, dude, this is super cool. Like, but that's as far as it got. So the Instagram handle there's nothing cool to it. I'm just don't have a reason to change it,
I mean, I find it cool. I mean, you joke about just being at Matt Evans, but like I'm at my name, and clearly like that is just weak. It's zero creativity went into that name. I didn't even get to pick that name, to be honest. My parents picked it for me, so I just went with what I've been called all along, which is like just lazy in and of itself. But it works. It gets the job done. I see also that you are a Kentucky guy.
Die hard.
All right. Die hard. So what does this mean? All right. I'm fascinated because being from Memphis, I am a huge University of Memphis basketball fan.
Yeah.
And if you know anything about Memphis and Kentucky, they used to have this connection. And I want to know how you guys feel about Coach Cal.
So listen, that's a great segue to my personality. Like I'm a diehard Kentucky football, basketball fan, any sport for Kentucky. Like I believe blue because I grew up in Lexington. I went to UK, graduated UK. And like I grew up with, and I would say arguably, but factually the best basketball team that'll ever be assembled in college basketball. The 96 Wildcats are out. I mean, just you go back and look at that. And now we have our coach is Mark Pope from that team. What was super cool is like I grew up having we had season tickets, so I got to go, and like I love Kentucky basketball. Like it was a thing. Like I went with both my grandfathers, my grandmother, my dad and I would go all the time. It was just a fun experience. And so when we went to college, my freshman year of college was the Billy Gillispie era, which for anyone who pays attention to college basketball, like Kentucky dominated in the 90s. Like we were the team. And in the early 2000s, we were still the team, but we just would lose. And then I went to college dating myself, I'm old. 2007, we had this guy named Billy Gillispie come in, and he came in for 2 years. And it was the worst basketball I'd ever seen in my life. Like there were some cool people there, but like, my first time in the student section, like 3 rows back, we lost, like that's a terrible memory. I kind of stopped watching, especially in college. Like, we watched, but like, it wasn't something I like, I didn't make a point to like schedule my life around the basketball game every week or go to it. And so we ended up, for what you're referring to, we ended up hiring this gentleman by the name of John Calipari, and it was a ride. We took him from Memphis.
Did you hire him or did you steal him away?
Well, so Memphis is, listen, it's a city.
I'll fill it in. It is a great place to be.
Memphis
great place.
Fantastic. Beale Street's a good time. Sure. That's your jazz. The whole culture with that is John Calipari was in our family. We talk about it still like almost weekly, daily. John Calipari was great for the first decade he was here. The problem is he was on the pioneer of the one and done culture for basketball, and quite frankly, everyone caught on to it. I think I still truly believe, like you're seeing it now, like in NFL refs, like people are accusing them of cheating. I still believe to my core that we were robbed that 40-0 team that went 38-1. I still to my core believe that we were robbed when we played Wisconsin that year. And like I've watched the game probably 2 or 3 times. I think at least 2 times, maybe 3. And every time it's like watching it today, like I would break a TV. Just like how like if it was a game that we'd watch today, because it was so egregious. And that was when it was like, okay, like the allure of John Calipari, like we went this far, but we came up that short. Every year after that was more and more frustrating, to a point where I think the last 2 years I tried to get into it, but like full well knowing we're going to lose. and it was heartbreaking. And so now we have this new coach, and I don't know if you're paying attention. We're kicking everybody's ass. We're also losing games we shouldn't lose.
You're also lose. Yeah. I mean, you beat Tennessee, and you look like, I will say, I will gladly root for anybody who will beat Tennessee.
100%. But we also didn't have our full team.
You almost,
we had no point guards, and we didn't have our center. I mean, like, we're a very weird team this year, and I'm hoping this sounds so bad. I hope he makes a play out of Calipari's book where he does a tweak and he like right before the tournament and we win 8 games in a row. You know, like I don't care about anything else at that point. You know, that's great. But yeah, diehard Kentucky fan. I'm sorry I'm sorry and not sorry that we took him. You know, because I wish we'd give him back. But
I mean, he's what I tell people is I will never what he did for the program was what was needed. Was like a fresh, resurgence to what Memphis basketball was in the 70s and early 80s and a little bit in the 90s. And so he comes in and he completely revamps. I mean, we're fucking selling out the Pyramid and the Forum for teams like St. Louis.
Yeah.
Like we can't even buy a sellout now in this brinky dink conference that they're in. But I don't want to get on this because on my other show
go for days.
On my other show, I go on diatribes about Memphis sports in general, and I try to stay really positive, but there are some times where I get really in the weeds. And this is one of those years where we're winning games and we're playing good against very good opponents, but we're playing shitty against shitty opponents, but somehow we're figuring it out to win. And so I'll just take wins right now. But Matt Hornaday, are you worried that Matt Evans goes back and looks at the Kentucky-Wisconsin game and wants to throw his TV at the referees, knowing that there are going to be opportunities where you're going to have faults on the grid, and I don't think he's going to agree with those at all. What is this guy going to do?
Matt will be fine.
He's going to be unhinged.
He will be fine. He is a professional in his space, and he's very familiar with the grid. Matt will tell you a story about what he's done with the grid so far. So we'll be all right.
Well, let's get into it, Matt. So Evans, you have a fitness journey. What's your background in fitness? How do you get from getting into fitness to being or knowing about grid? Let's go that route.
So I like to refer to myself before moving to Florida in 2017. I was like your average bro that drank every weekend, but I didn't miss the gym 6 days a week. Now my workouts, looking back then, weren't efficient. I'm that guy as well. I fall into the absolute norm. I discovered CrossFit in 2014. The shout out to my original gym, CrossFit Covalence out of Louisville, Kentucky. Still close with the owner and one of the coaches and stuff there. That was a really cool culture. So my first interaction with CrossFit, I had moved so I went to Kentucky. I moved out to Oregon after college. I was there for 2.5, 3 years. I moved back to Louisville for 2.5, 3 years, and then I've moved to Florida in 17. So that's to catch you up on that. And when I moved to Louisville, I was trying to keep up with my LA fitness workout, bodybuilding pump, just try to do something. And when I moved with the new job and all that, that kind of didn't become a priority. And so one of the coaches was also a bartender. And he's like, "Hey man, hit me up. Come check out the CrossFit gym." I walked in there and my first workout, there were people in there that I was like, these guys look like Greek gods, and the females looked like Amazonian warrior women, that they were just oh, cool. And they're ripping strict handstand push-ups, deadlifting what looked like, 5,000 pounds. And then they were doing backflips. Now, side note to that story, a lot of the U of L cheerleaders used to go to that gym, males and females. So and the owner used to be a Kentucky cheerleader. So they would do weird shit straight up. I got into CrossFit and I dove completely in. It was new. It was all about the community. It was a completely different stimulus. And like, it's a drug. Like that feeling was a drug, and it stuck for a while. I had no aspirations to compete. I had no aspirations like outside of the local comps, you know, whatever, like just like for fun because the community did it. And I ended up moving to Florida. I was going to take some time off from CrossFit because I dropped into a couple gyms. One of the gyms is no longer available, and I had a horrible vibe, right? Like and you know, in hindsight, I'm not going to say any names. The person that I got paired up with the Saturday partnership workout was just like one of those guys was like, yeah, you kind of suck. Like he didn't have like social awareness. And I'm like, dude, like I'm new. Like I'm traveling to see if I want to come to this gym. So I ended up moving to Florida, and I took a couple days off, or I guess about a month and a half off. My job got pretty stressful. And at the time, the person I was dating was like, hey, you need to get back into a gym and find like a community for your mental health. So I found a gym called Cigar City CrossFit in Ybor City. At the time, it was owned by Ben Bunn and Mike Verdi. It's where Chris Chaffee trains. We'll get into the Chaffinator in a second. I got some great stories about Chris in his early training days. So I walked in there, and like my introduction was with this guy, and he goes, hey man, like welcome to Cigar City. Listen, we're doing 17.5. It was the open. He's like, are you familiar? I was like, yeah. He's like, are you doing it? It's like, yeah, I'm going to do it. He's like, you need a judge? I was like, no. I was like, cool. We got donuts and a keg of beer for you when you're done. Like, I was like, sick. Where do I sign the papers? Like, this is the exact vibe I want.
Can I have it during the workout? Is that possible?
Well, you know, I hadn't done CrossFit in any capacity at that point for like, I think probably like 6 to 8 weeks, like just cold turkey, probably 2 workouts a week. And like, you know, high stress at the time. Ben's like a pretty prominent local figure, like in different facets. Like he's a character. Like he's definitely well-rounded person and pretty knowledgeable in the fitness space. And what was cool was when I got in there, he was very welcoming. And then Mike was also a good friend of mine. The other owner, like they had different styles of like training and like methodologies, but like they worked real well. And the community they cultivated was like, it was so ingrained with our personal lives. Like we always hung out, like going out to Ybor. We would do a lot together as a gym. And so I don't know, probably 4 or 5 months in, I'm over here figuring out like, hey man, like I'm working out, but I'm not literally losing weight. Like I need something more to train for. And at that point I was introduced to like real athletes. When I say real athletes, like the people up at Covalence in Louisville were, but it's just different down here in Florida. Like people train outside year round. People care more about what they look like. You know, they're a little more self-centered, I guess, and like, you know, a little more vain. And so I was like, okay, now you got people that I'm like, okay, cool. Like, you know, CrossFit Games athletes, like you know, people that have gone to the games, and like I was able to be exposed to their training. And you know, Ben was sitting there one night at my best friend's apartment, just like talking about like a mindset, and like, you know, we're obviously drinking and carrying on, and something clicked. Like this was in 2017. I was like, damn, like I want to feel that like mindset and that pain, and like let's set some radical goals. And so at that point, like he took me on as an individual athlete. And so that picture I think that you took was at the gym. I mean, like I got to the point where I went from doing like scaled class to like individual design, 2+ hour workouts a day. And that was when the picture that you got for the reel, that was from that time frame. And so that's when I fell in love with CrossFit. Like I started trying to compete, or like wanting to compete, but you know, you just like anybody else, like without having that elite background, you know, there's or having some laurels of like, hey, like D1 athlete or whatever. Dude, I was there just to beat myself up from pure, you know, not gonna say self-hatred, but like to relieve any stress I had. Like that was my motivation. And so I started seeing some fun. I started being able to compete a little bit, and like, you know, injury here or there, and like you lose a little motivation. And so I've just been involved in CrossFit for so long that you know, it's fun. It's fun to up and down with a recreational standpoint, and then also like, oh, let's train for a comp. But no, man, I've given those elite training days. I've given those days up. Like I don't chase that dream anymore. You know.
You know, I felt accomplished. So I was the same way in my 20s, which I think I moved to Tampa in 2011 and I started CrossFit. I want to say in like 2012, like January. I was
What
like
gym
one of
did you
those
go
like
to, by the way?
CrossFit 813. I was a coach there, and then we sold, and it ended up being CrossFit Downtown Heights, and then Downtown Heights now is CrossFit Hyde Park. So that's how that all goes. But
So I'll tell you, 813 was the gym that I dropped into.
uh-huh.
And I know a lot of people that were there like are great people. It was the one guy. We'll talk offline on that, man. It's a funny story, like who I ran into. There was
I hope
one
it
guy.
wasn't. I hope it wasn't me.
No.
I would never be like that. I'd be like,
No. It
you,
was
you
no.
would be like,
Everybody was fine. It was like literally there were 3 people that I got put in a side room for the workout, and then the guy I worked out with, I was like, hey, like I was like, bro, what? Like, it was just like one of those like, here's my $20. See you later, you know.
yeah.
And then I didn't really think much of it because there's a lot more CrossFit gyms. Anyways, yeah, that was a.
Well, I will say this. I'm sorry that happened, and
No.
I don't want anybody to have a bad experience. And but obviously you found where home was. So how do you get involved in grid? Do you hear about it when it was MPGL, like back in the day? Was it Florida Grid League, or was this like very recently where you're like, oh shit, what is this?
So actually, and I'm not from professional reasons, I'm not going to call out any of the athletes that I met at the time, and they're not involved anymore. But my first interaction with grid was at you're familiar. I see your UT shirt on. Was at McDenton's, and like having these 2 players,
Staple, baby.
Yeah, I had these 2 players that I knew. We were out with a group with the Cigar City people, and like we ran into people that like everybody knew whatever they were. We're watching football or something. It's one Saturday. I don't know. I just remember being approached about sponsoring a player for like $500 as I'm like venturing into my. I don't remember what the amount was, like, so that's not fair for me to say that out loud. But I just remember like, dude, like I'm having a hard time paying for my own training. Like,
right.
What are you talking about? Like, what is this thing? And so that was my first introduction with grid. And like, I never watched a match or anything until down the road. I didn't think anything of it. Like I knew it existed. I didn't know what level. I didn't know about the MPGL. I couldn't tell you any team name. I just know that like I was approached like a couple different times from people that were players. They're like, hey, will you individually sponsor me? And I'm like, no, that's not going to be something that I can contribute to because I don't know what this is. And like, that's not, I'm your drinking buddy. Like, I know you through like, I don't know. It was a weird interaction.
You were giving off like I got money to burn vibes. Like
I was 28 years old, 29 years old at
Evans.
McDenton's. You know what I'm saying? Like I look back and I cringe at myself when I first moved to Florida because like I was the guy that I drove a black BMW, right? Like that was my personality. Actually, at the time, the first year in Florida, I had an F-150 truck, so that didn't help. I had an F-150. I never drove with my shirt on to and from the gym. Like I didn't care if I had a beer gut or not, man. I was just like, whatever. And then I ended up getting a black BMW that I was in love with. I still miss that car. That car was a blast. But I had that car, and then at the same time, like I just, yeah, man. I don't know. It was a vibe, dude. I had that South Tampa vibe, but living at Rocky Point, like it was wild times.
Big time.
But grid wise, I met my wife now, Lindsay, and I met her at the Valor Fitness Games, 2021, right? I was single. I've said this on other forums or whatever. I was hopelessly single at that point. Like I didn't know left from right, dude. Everyone was putting their life back together from COVID, trying to figure it out, I was living in like this is a whole thing. I was living in my buddy's above detached garage apartment. They used to Airbnb it out, and then like I rented it out. Dude, it was a bachelor pad. I loved it. If you ever talk to Lindsay about it, it was a hilarious situation, but loved it. Like I was there for a while. Perfect for a single guy. I met her at the Valor Games in 2021 in February, and we had matched like 2 weeks before that. And, you know, sparing all the details, it was like a weird situation. Like I wasn't dating anybody. I was traveling for work again, which kind of sucked at that time. And so like we hadn't set up a date, but we had been talked for 2 weeks. But it was sketchy because I had 2 phones. I had a work phone, I had a personal phone, and we were talking on Instagram. So like real ADHD moments for me, like 3 different conversations. And this poor girl kept me around, which is cool. Ended up meeting her at Valor. You know, the rest was pretty much history at that point. And she was real modest. Like she's a real modest person. And, which is, you know, the opposite of me. You know, I want to brag for her, but she's like, yeah, kind of like I work with Grid. I'm like, that whole thing that I was like, you know, solicited for, like to sponsor these people. Like, no. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, whatever. Like, so what do you do? So I had to like backtrack, like, you know, I had to backtrack and like catch my words. I was like, I don't even know what Grid is. Like, let's see. And so we started dating. We started like, we actually courted each other, or I courted her in the sense of like, I wasn't over at her house every night. It was like, I saw her on weekends. We actually did dates. So when we would do things, it was intentional. I swear to this day, that's why we lasted. Like it wasn't, you know, there wasn't like all this crap in the middle. She told me, hey, the first Grid event was at the UBU Fit Fest in Orlando. She's like, I think at this point we'd been dating enough that she was like, hey, I think you should come. Like, okay. It's like, yeah, cool. So we're going. And I was like, cool. So basically I go to this event and they told me they needed a finish line judge, like our finish line video guy. And so I had my phone and she's like, okay, cool. So like your phone didn't have great battery, but turn your phone on airplane mode and you got to stay here. And so for like 2 days, I literally sat in this corner with no one to talk to, which is very difficult for me. And I got to watch Grid. And, you know, the whole story was the first night, it was a weird format because like there was one match the first night, I think was like the Wild and the Sharks or something. And then the next day, the Wild sat there all day watching matches. And so I got to talk to like Sam Nally, like Nick, Blake, Moke, all those people. And like Adam and Des were there. They're like, you have no idea what's going on. Like, who are you? I was like, you know, they thought I was just like a volunteer. And I was like, well, you know, like kind of, sort of. And I got to experience like watching a Grid match from like start to finish. And I was hooked. Like, I can't watch Team CrossFit anymore. I think Team CrossFit is like the most boring thing of fitness to watch. I think it's hilarious, especially like when you watch a match in Grid that's close and like really close. It really adds that adrenaline rush, I guess, if you're into that kind of thing. The funny thing though of that whole experience was, I'm going to backtrack. So we had to go there to this Fit Fest on like Thursday to like set up, or like whatever day to set up. And so I'm obviously like, hey, like new girlfriend, we were dating like 3-4 months at this point. She's like, yeah, we're gonna have to like set up this rig. Like I was like a rig. She's like, yeah, you know, like at Valor Fitness, like they have like a rig there. Like I had no idea what it looked like. So like keep that in mind. And she's like, yeah, Mather. I was like, who's Mather? She's like, he's like the main guy. I was like, okay, cool. And so the first day I get there, we walk into the whole place. Mather's wrist is like broken. It's me, my new girlfriend, and this guy with dreadlocks setting up this rig. I'm just like, this is a hilarious situation to be in. And so I ended up having the unique opportunity, because I know Mather's like, who the hell is this guy Lindsay brought? Just like asking him everything about like, what the hell is this? Like, what, you know, oh, we got sponsors. Like, this is a legit business. Like, cool. Like, you know, meanwhile, like I didn't realize Lindsay was like, you know, kind of like the person that makes everything happen. You know, she's like, oh yeah, I just do this. And like, oh, okay. I didn't understand that point. You know, what girlfriend tells you 3 months, like, hey, like I kind of, you know,
kind of a big deal.
She was so humble about it. I was like, oh shit. So then it became like very apparent, like the day 2, like, oh, like everyone's asking her for like shit. And here I am, just the boyfriend. That's why she told me like, they didn't know how to use me. I didn't get a walkie-talkie, which is probably smart, you know. But yeah, that's how I got involved with Grid. I ended up, you know, going down to all the matches that first year. There's some other good stories we'll save for another date of the championships with the Freaks in the Wild that year that we were involved in. And you know, to be honest, like it's a great, there's highs, there's lows, like there's a lot of sacrifice, but it's so much fun to be a part of it. So that's how I got involved was through my wife, Lindsay. And it got to a point where it's part of our lives, right? It's a family. And Mather and Ruby are fantastic people. And like, you see how much passion they put into this. It's hard not to like care for it too. Like their dream is hard not to care for. And so to segue into how Matt and I got linked up this past year, which would be my 4th year involved with Grid, we were out in Vegas. Matt, was it in Vegas that we had the initial conversation?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're out in Vegas, like, fiddle farting around at, the Mr. Olympia. And Matt and I just like a couple had some conversations, and we had talked before. The first time I actually had a real conversation was in a pool with Matt drinking, which was great. And like, I'm over here like giving him some shit, like, dude, the breakers, really, like, come on, man, like, let's do better. But at the same time, like, Matt had he had heard through the grapevine, and I kind of told him that like I'm looking to get involved on a different level with Grid. I've done the staff from different facets that I wanted to be able to kind of get from the team side. And from the get-go, like Lindsay's like, he's always wanted to be a part of like a team in some way. I used to kind of want to play, but like, I don't think my body can handle that now to get in shape to do that. And so Matt and I had a conversation, and I had a conversation with other coaches and owners in Vegas. It's when it started. I had a real candid conversation with Mather multiple times about, hey, like, I want to get involved on a team level. And so the idea of me buying a team, that came up this year, creating a new team, that came up this year. I talked with like Dan Jackson and Mia with the Wild. And more or less, I kind of had this idea, I talked with Briley about how I could be important, on a team level. And basically it came down to Matt and I share a very similar passion that the growth of Grid is super important to both of us. And I think our first phone call was like 2 hours, 2.5 hours. We talked about league expectations, and I was like, all right, let me think about this. And there was a couple other avenues on the table at the time. But I think after my first call, and I would venture to ask Lindsay this, I think it was pretty apparent that like I got off the phone. I was like, I think I'm gonna go with Matt. I think I need to go with Matt and join up with him. And it was a clear cut decision. Like, our passion aligned, our mission aligned. He had a need for some of my talents and skills, I guess. And now we're here doing a podcast with you, man.
So Matt Hornaday, he's a few I don't know, weeks into this role. How would you evaluate him? How's he doing so far?
I don't know, man. So like Matt said, like Evan said, we had a game plan, and we talked about like everything that was important to us and the organization as a whole, right? And so all we've been doing is marching towards that. So even still, I mean, like, me and Matt talk maybe not every day, but I'd say at least every other day, just on whatever, like, what's going on, where do we need support, what do we need to attack, right? And so it's been phenomenal. I knew coming out of the end of last season that one of the things we needed to do is get support. And Matt was like, so from me and Matt's first conversation, what we talked about was just identifying all the possible roles, right, within the organization, and then making sure that it would be a fit. And so as we went through that, we're saying, hey, these are all the possible roles. Here's what's a must to be filled. And it just perfectly aligned with Matt Evans' skill set as well. So like, it's been perfect, man. I can't complain. Can't complain at all.
That's unbelievable. But I mean, the last time you and I talked, Matt, is that, you wanted to do some, creative things, some out of the box things, and, hiring Matt Evans seems to be one of those moves that are moving you in the direction of doing that. But you also held a combine in Alabama. And I know that, we discussed offline, like, what that was and what it looked like. And then I was able to talk to Josh and Shay about, what it meant to have some type of like footprint or foothold in that region. And from you, obviously you got players, but when you went into it, the weather wasn't perfect. You drove down or drove up, and Getting into it before it even occurs, are you like, oh man, I hope this is going to be good, or did you know like this is going to be legit?
So, good question. I'd say we went into it. It started from a conversation during our exit interviews back in November, right?
Mm-hmm.
And me and Joshua were talking about it, and we said, hey, this could be a great opportunity for us to capture some more talent. We already had a good amount of athletes from there that were coming back, and we wanted to see if we could expand on that, right? Plus, they knew people. We had a great location for it as well. So we said, hey, let's do it. But then, of course, the weather ended up coming about, and that made us a little bit concerned about what our overall turnout would be. And there were some people that weren't able to make it because of that, between that and just their own personal schedules. But I remember as we were getting closer to the head count of just new athletes that were coming there, and Joshua was like, we're just looking at the registrations, and Joshua was like, man, like I was hoping that there would be more athletes that are coming. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, dude, this is a solid amount of athletes that are coming just as rookies. And then we had the additional benefit of a ton of veterans coming. And so it turned out to be a practice more than a combine, right? Like, of course, we were still testing the rookies and stuff like that, but we ended up having a ton of veterans that were there, and they got to throw down with the rookies as well. And so we got to put them through a true race, and it turned out way better than we could have ever imagined. I mean, it's rare that you host a combine and you pull out, 4 or 5 athletes that can come in and start. That's unheard.
So sometimes, quality is better than quantity, because what you don't want is to have 100 athletes there and really only 10 of them can really do anything, and now you're like having to placate to the 90% that really aren't going to be able to help you. You're appreciative that they come out and you get more eyes on the product, but the reality is your job there is to fill voids and fill spaces and complete a team. And you were able to do that. Like, you were able to sign some players and get out of it what you needed to get out of it, regardless of how many players are there. And on top of it, I think one of the things that might go unnoticed is that you're getting rookies, but you're also getting the veterans there to see the rookies, and they're going, oh shit, like the game, like the level is going up in intensity. Like, just because I was on this team last year, like I got to continue to push hard. Like I got to continue to because this is what's coming, which is always a good thing. Competition, it brings out the best in people. You're only, in baseball, I always told my guys, like, we're only as good as we are deep. If we're not very deep and that talent level isn't balanced throughout that depth, we're going to be in trouble, because we are going to practice with each other way more times than what we're going to play other teams. And if I'm not convinced that we can't practice and be competitive and have some intensity, like there's no way we're going to be able to translate that into real-time situations in the game during season. So
you said something really interesting there, though, like with the communication and stuff. And like, one of the things, Matt, I appreciate the confidence there, is that one of the things that I like to bring to the table, and like what we talked about, was the quote unquote the sales strategy, right? Not just to the breakers, but the breakers in Grid League in general, and then also like with other teams. And one of the things being afar from that was a selling point when we first started. Like, I think I had a week and a half, 2 weeks of really getting involved on a daily basis and hit the ground running with player recruitment, was that, hey, we got this combine. And you hit the nail on the head. We had people that were going there, and their intentions was, hey, I want to come, show up, show out, make the team, or get a letter, an LOI. And what was super interesting is like the conversations before the combine, and then the conversations after with the rookies and veterans. Like you already talked to Billy, and Cobb. Yeah, Nate.
And Dodd.
And Dodd. Yeah. So you already talked to, and Haley, and like you talked to them, and like there were some concerns, I think, and I'm not necessarily with those players specifically, but even with some of the veterans, like people started talking about playing time, and that was all before the combine. And now we're talking about, hey, what do I need to do to help this team win? And so, like, one of the biggest things that Matt and I came, and that's why it helps having two people, because I wouldn't be able to do this on my own. And I know that I don't think I think it's a helpful thing for Matt is that we're putting out that our mission is not, hey, like, look, we're not here for individual athletes to shine. We do not care about that. Matter of fact, there's plenty of other places, maybe not in grid, for you to go and try to do that. And we've had those conversations after the combine. Everyone's like, dude, this is we've got a force. And we're looking at the attitude as well as their attitude, their personality characteristics that make them an athlete. And at the same time, like, when you have veterans that, we've picked veterans. I know some of them are there. So we've signed, JoJo and Alyssa. And JoJo was a situation where I have a personal relationship with him and Alyssa. And I had to have a conversation with JoJo. And I was like, look, this is yours to lose. Like, you were a formidable force and you have a gray cloud around you a little bit. Your ability to come into our program and organization, not only just like be a player and a key player, but you can be a leader. And being that, you're going to have to fight for your position. And if anything, he called me the other day. Like, this is so funny. He called me. He's like, dude, that fired me up. He goes, I'm fired up. This is okay. And I was like, cool. That's what we want, right? We still want to cultivate that fire breathing inner athlete, or that inner badass out of each and one of them. But Matt and I are here to build a team. We're here to build a team, and like, we don't care about years past. We care about this year. And that's like, that mentality is 100% across every one of our athletes.
Yeah. When you talk to other, players on different teams and you get feedback, one of the things I ask is, all right, well, what draws you to the team, or what steers you away from other teams, because you've had players that have played for one team and they've moved on to a different team, or you've had players that have played with the same team for a long time. And it all comes down to the culture that is created. And I think everything that you guys are saying, like, you're creating that culture of, one, you care. You care about the team, and it's team first, and we want to be competitive and we want to have a shot to win it all, first and foremost. Secondly, we're going to be competitive. We're going to do things the right way. And if you're not in it for that, this ain't for you. And I think those are the tough conversations that, from a coach, owner, GM, from a player management standpoint, like, those are the tough conversations that in this league, I think they're few and far between, because I think people are afraid to have those challenging conversations, but they're super critical to the improvement and culture of a team, to be able to tell somebody like you did with JoJo, hey man, like, there's a cloud around you and you got to come here, because we don't need you, but we could use you. And if you're willing to be that guy that we need for this team, I think you can be great. But if not, like, let's just be friends and, like, we'll call it what it is. But, like, having conversations with people like that is super challenging and tough. And Matt, after the end of the season, you had to have, a conversation with all the athletes, and for the most part, you knew what you were going to have, prior to the, combines and stuff like that. But, wouldn't you agree, like, the challenging conversations have to be had, as difficult as they might be? You have to have those. You try to spare feelings as much as possible, but sometimes, like, you got to lay the truth out there, and the truth hurts sometimes.
And back at me too, right? Like, we were an organization that was underachieving consistently, right? So when we had our exit interviews, it wasn't just, hey, this is what is not working from, the athletes to the owner perspective, but vice versa, right? Like, where can I step up and where can I help? And after every single one of those meetings, there was a commitment made to all of those veterans and what I was going to do, or what we were going to do as an organization to bring them to a level of where we should be, right? And so all of those who had that meeting with me will know our moniker, which is those who stay. And they know exactly what that means, right? And from that, we've all dedicated and committed to a certain level of what we're going to do, right? Of what we're going to achieve and what this team is all about. And even like, so the same thing with JoJo, like I'm telling you guys right now, you guys are going to see who JoJo really is as a committed leader and an athlete in the sport. No question about it.
I got him scheduled February 8th. Y'all mark it down. JoJo and Alyssa coming on together. We're gonna sip a little tea and we're gonna have a little good time. But you know, I'm not gonna get into too much of the backstory. Like, I want to get into like what their focus is now. But you know, Matt Evans, I want to ask, obviously new to the role, new to the organization, not new to Grid, been with it. So you've networked, like you are a very personable guy. And so I'm sure you know a lot of faces and talk to a lot of people. But for you with this season, what is the biggest, like at the end of the season, when you go, all right, I spent a year in this position, what's the one thing that you want to accomplish, the one big ticket item where like, I know that I can do this, so this is what I'm planning to do?
I'm gonna put this out there, and I know this might get put on a poster or, you know, shit talk later, but a championship. Like 100%. Like Matt and I are together for a reason. And so I've coached sports before. I've been a swim coach. I've been a soccer coach at high school level, you know, intramurals, college, whatever, you know, it doesn't matter. And you made a funny comment about me flipping out on refs. And I really hope I don't. I take a different approach to coaching ever since my first time coaching, because I had a hothead mentality and this, that, and the other, whatever. But now it's a little more. When I coach or I'm on the sidelines, I'm going to be a little more reserved. And it's simply because I look at it from a professional standpoint. And to me, I think I told Matt this yesterday. It was either yesterday or the day before. I said, you know, how often did you see Phil Jackson flip out?
Yeah,
they don't. And so there's a lot of things that I think can be happening from a championship coach standpoint. Matt and I have had that discussion, what that'll look like and how we're going to, and we'll continue to have that discussion to build a championship program. But our expectation is a championship. And if we start with that now, I don't even want to think that if it doesn't happen, but it's not just this year, it's next year and then the year after. And so it's as the league grows, we want to put pressure for our passion and love of the sport. We want to put pressure on every other team. And so there won't be a point where we pull our punches. Like if we have a chance to slaughter a team, we're going to slaughter them. If we get slaughtered, great. Now we know what to work. And that's how we've looked at it. And it's business, right? This is our program. This is our organization, and the Palm Beach Breakers deserve, especially the veterans, you know, like that are new and old, deserve to have a championship. They deserve nothing less than that kind of effort from Matt and I. And that's my expectation. There's different things that I think would also contribute. Like there's nothing that's going to substitute that expectation, but there's outcomes and goals that Matt and I have from like a financial standpoint. You know, the grid is so close to being the grid individual grid teams. And this is kind of the chip on my shoulder. I think have a very, very close to where you're not going to be able to make money. I don't think you should be able to make money yet, but we're going to be at a point to where we can subsidize, or we should be able to have that goal of every team can subsidize training and have money at the bank at the end of the year. Like there's no reason we can't get to that. And so like, I haven't made promises. Matt knows I haven't made promises. The only promise I haven't made promises monetarily. The only promise I have made is that I've worked my ass off to find us sponsors, to have those meetings and to see what it takes, like what they expect from us and what's realistic. And we can grow from there step by step. And then the last thing I'll say about from an expectation standpoint is, and this is for all of our players to hear, is I expect us to be the most professional team on the grid, point blank, bar none. We're going to take a different approach to this. We're going to take a different approach that I haven't seen the team do yet. And then this is, you know, we've said JoJo's, but I know there's some other athletes that we've had some conversations with. There's another athlete, his LOI came through, so we can say it. Cody Schaefer he used to be at the Palm Beach Breakers or
The Palms.
Yeah. Cody and I had a conversation, and he was like real leery about coming back and like this, that, and the other. And then I was like, hey, let me tell you what we're about first and foremost. And he's like, where do I sign? you know, and he'll tell you that. Like, ask him. Like, there were 2 conversations. We told him about our expectations, and it was not around like, hey, we expect you to come in and do all these muscle ups, and he was worried about that, or he cared that all of this body weight stuff you want to do. Matt and I got on the phone with him, and I said, hey, we care about your personality, your attitude, and your commitment to grit. We don't want you to be saying, hey, we're training for this competition. Screw that CrossFit competition. Forget that. You're training for the Palm Beach Breakers and going to win a championship. And when we told him that, and we told him that he had help, and like this was a team, not just an individual show out thing, then he was like, oh shit, like let's go. Mm-hmm. And that's not throwing any shade at any other team, but what we want to look at is from our interactions with each other, interactions with how we present ourselves on the grid. We want to be that team that looks, oh shit, the Breakers are here. Like, why, you know, they look great. They act great. They act professional. There's going to be moments where we might fall short of our own standard, but Matt and I have discussed this, and we've got a standard that we're going to uphold. And I think that's going to help drive us to the championship, truthfully.
You know, I talked to Paul Bayer, the Daytona coach and owner, and one of the things he mentioned to me is like, as the league evolves and as it gets bigger, which I mean, I think we're all in agreement that it's going to get bigger. It becomes like you have to have this more professional outlook on the organization. It can't no longer be like, oh, like this is a fun thing. Like, you know, we're having a good time. Like, you know, if we win, we win. If we lose, whatever. Like it has to become like a business, but it's also got to have this professional feel to it, because I think for a long time, not that it wasn't professional, but like you could sense like it could do some work in that area. And so like one of the things he mentioned was like his big, you know, outlook for the year is for him to make this feel and be a more professional, you know, organization. So I'll be interested when I get a chance to talk to him again. I know he's got some things going on. But you know, when I talk to him again, you know, what has he done since to move it in that direction? But Matt, for you, man, you have the season that you had last year. You have all this, like these goals and these expectations, but there's a list of things that, you know, you and I were discussing prior to. What is the big thing? Like, what are some things that you still have to do? Like starting now, like moving forward before the season starts, what are some things that are on that checklist to do? Like, what do you still have to finalize?
You've got to practice, man. I mean, that's our next step, is like getting the whole squad together and putting the pieces together. Like we know we have the athletes, we know we have the depth. Now we have to make sure that everybody gels and meshes together perfectly. And so
when can you start practice?
Tomorrow. But our first practice is going to be in 2 weeks. And then we've got our camp in March, and we're working on 2 scrimmages for this preseason. So
what is the camp looking like? Is it where is it going to be in Palm Beach? Is it going to be at a different location? Is it going to be online? What's the format of this camp?
So our camp will be local down here in South Florida. So we'll be in Palm Beach County. We've got, I have to actually go and check out a gym that we're looking to partner with as well for that. And so I was supposed to go yesterday. Schedule didn't permit it. So I'm going to try and go probably after this podcast, because that's the next slot I got. But we're going to go check that out just to make sure that it'll fit for us. But yeah, it'll be down here in Palm Beach.
Sweet. So expectations, and I'll start with you, Matt Evans. What is your expectations for the team? What is the goal? I mean, outside of a championship, obviously, but like, if you were to look at it, is it, you know, be in the playoffs, give yourself a chance to win, or is it something different? Is it something more like personal for you? Like, I want to prove that I can do this job, or I want to get us to where we're, you know, net positive at the end of the season. What is that one big ticket goal that you have for this season?
That's a great question. So there's 2 answers to that. One, the team levels, like I said before, is championship. The expectation is to go to the championship and win. And I think you're going to talk to 2 different people in sports. And I've played sports my whole life. I played at I'm not going to say an elite level. I've played with elite people. And one thing that is that if you're playing with somebody on your team that their expectation is not to win a championship, you're playing with the wrong people. And so every person in Grid League I would expect to play against, that their expectation is to go to the championship and win. That's what the whole league has to have. And if it's not there, then that's a problem for that coach, not on our team. Like everyone knows that's our expectation on our team. Now, my personal expectations, right? And like what I'm looking to get out of this experience is this is a harder question to answer. I have a chip on my shoulder. And there's a lot of stories I go into of on the loading dock conversations at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night with Mather and Brandon. And Matt's heard some of these stories where like we're literally shooting the shit and like, about different capacities and how Grid can grow. And so my chip on my shoulder is that I want to be able to say that I can do any role at Grid. I like being that go-to guy. I like being – this sounds cringeworthy. I don't want to say like I like being the guy, but I like being the guy that can be relied upon. And so I've said a lot about marketing, sponsorships, and like that I could be a part of a team. So for me personally, it's literally being a part of extension of Matt Hornaday and the Breakers, to where I'm an asset to the team, and I'm creating and trying some of the ideas and visions that we have, and not just like from a sales standpoint, but like player management, recruiting Haley. I told Matt I had an idea. You called that out like, hey, like you were actually right. It's kind of spot on. I was like, Matt, I'm with you on this. I've got somebody I need, we need to look at. And we looked at a recruiter and went, the rest is history. But that happened over and over. And so like there's some confidence boosters, but I want to be able to be that guy for Matt. And then in turn, like I think that our underlying passion is the growth of the Grid, the league, the UGL now. And one of the things I've seen a shortcoming is like there's not enough teams, right? We always get to another team. The Bandits joined, the Venom joined, and they have yet to have a winning season. Like no shots to Paul or Andrew Maddox that was there before, but they haven't had a winning season yet. And so one of the ideas I told Matt is that as I'm involved with you and we get to the Breakers' success, whatever that looks like, we have our expectations, whether we fall short or not. Like we've set the line in the sand. It's not a moving object. Like it is a target for us to win a championship. Is how do I now go to the league and say, hey, here's the playbook for success, right? I want the league to grow. Matt wants the league to grow. Here's a playbook that we want other teams to execute this, and we want new teams to execute this, right? And so that's one of the things. Like I've told that to Mather before, and I'm close with Mather. I talk to him weekly. And it's one of those things where I was like, hey, this is kind of my opinions. And we talked about that on the back of the docks out in Vegas. Like we talked about me owning a team, what that looks like, and the time that goes into that and the resources. And so if like for me, yeah, one day maybe I would own, Matt Evans's whatever, I'm not that vain, but like I'd have a team with that's my team. However, I'm having more fun right now being a partner with Matt. Like I don't want to be the guy doing this, because I can tell you, there won't be another team in Grid League history where it's one owner, one coach, and the back office is just one person. You'll never have that again. No. You will never have that again, because John and Mia and Dan prove that. It takes a team of three. I think there's another person, so I apologize if I didn't say their name. But it takes a team to do that. And so as we get to the point of being professional, my chip is that I want to prove a point that our success is because we have teamwork in the back office or front office, and that we put out expectations that matter. And so if we can live that way, the Grid League is going to grow. It's going to grow, and we can deal with the growth problems later. I'm not here to talk about that, but that's my chip on my shoulder. And thankfully, I have a wife that supports that, that's involved in the league too. And I've got a partner, Matt, that, it's, hey, one day at a time, and we just win each day. So,
well, dude, I'm invested through and through.
Yeah, 1% better every day. So, Matt Hornaday, finish us off with this. All right. At the end of 2025, what will you be able to say about the Breakers season?
Those who stay will be champions.
There you go. It. Well said. I mean, you can't do any more. Well, I guess maybe you could do more, but your strategy and the blueprint that you're putting together now for success, like it's working. Like everything you've done has been very thought out. Every move has been, very intentional. And I think, like you said, Evans, like you're not going to see the ownership and the back office stuff through one person. It's going to be a team, and it has to be, because there's a lot of things that go into the success of the team outside of just having the right players. Because I mean, Jimmys and Joes matter. They really do. The X's and O's can be great, but Jimmys and Joes matter. But if you don't have the right people getting the right Jimmys and Joes, or creating a culture where the right Jimmys and Joes want to come and stay, like you're gonna be struggling. So I'm confident you guys are moving in the right direction. Everything you say is awesome. Like you guys are meshing really well. It seems like you got a plan in place, and I'm interested to see, what the fruits of the labor bring out, because it's going to bring something good, something positive, because you see it so far. But anything you guys want to lay out there? Anything you want to plug, promote? Any last minute items? Any, Evans, I know the wheels are spinning. Like I feel like you always got something brewing back there. So
I have to be more reserved, man. Now that you put me in the public spotlight, like I can't always speak my mind. I mean,
say whatever you want.
There's going to be some interesting things that'll happen with Grid, I think, this year, and we've said this every year in the last 4 years, and I will tell you from a higher level standpoint, and what I'm privy to say out loud. There's from year to year, it doesn't look like we've grown a lot. And in hindsight, I can tell you now from the team side, I can see what it looked like 4 years ago and what it looked like now, and it's night and day. And there's headaches that are still the same. There's personalities that are still there that have changed. But in the hindsight, like, I want to encourage anybody who listens to this that's not on a team, whether it's with us or any other team out there, to at least reach out and get involved in some way, shape, or form. It's rewarding. It's super rewarding, and it's fun. It's a fun atmosphere to be in. And I think, my mission, and we've said this, is to cultivate that culture and foster the people's passion for Grid. It's I really like to believe that, as you said too, like Grid's going places, and we're a part of it. And the journey that we're a part of is, it's our own to write from the Breaker standpoint. But I encourage anybody, like, look at the number of rookies we got this year, from different spots. Like, I could easily see in 3 years there's going to be an Alabama Grid team, and the Breakers are going to be rebuilding again, which is fine. I hope everybody has a chance to see it, play it. And, as you said on the other podcast, hey mom, shout out to mom.
There you go. Can't go wrong with that one. Yeah. Matt Hornaday, anything you want to plug, promote, or just put out there?
Just big thing for me is that, because I've talked to other people that have looked into ownership in the league as well. And, we have built as team owners an additional community to try and help new owners thrive in the sport, helping the current owners, right? But also new owners coming in. And so, like, you're not just going to be set out high and dry. Like, the league's got your back. We've got your back as a group of owners as well. And so, and if it's something that you're interested in, like, now is the time to get moving on that, because the league is moving forward, man. And there's some big and exciting things to do and to be a part of, and being in it earlier will definitely be better.
That's right. It's, I think, Matt Evans, you said it, night and day difference. And just being a guy that's followed it from the inception to where it is now, like, it's had some ebbs and some flows, but it's definitely, like you said, Matt Hornaday, the right time to get in. So I can't thank you fellas enough for joining me today, taking some time out. Obviously, big things coming from the Breakers this season. I'm looking forward to the rookies. I'm looking forward to the vets, but I'm looking forward to seeing, like, your vision and the plan that you guys have put in place come, to fruition. Because I think you're revolutionizing how team ownership and management's gonna occur. And I think it's only for the best. So I wish you guys the best of luck. And then obviously, I'll reach out. You guys will come back on soon. Don't worry.
Sure.
Matt, you might be You'll be a 3-time guest, and you might lead the clubhouse with appearances on the show, bro. Like,
hey, but now, like with Evans here, I don't even have to talk that much. So
no, you can just
let me know when you need me to chime in.
You know, whenever like if I'm like feeling kind of raspy or if I'm not feeling well, I'm gonna book Evans and just throw one question out there and just kind of sit back,
dude.
Let him go, man.
You know, we got held up in Vegas for 3 hours waiting for the truck. I mean, I think we solved the world's problems. We recreated the grid 3 times over between Mather, Brandon, and I. We watched 2 football games. It was crazy. I tell you, I'll get going. Don't tempt me.
What has to happen though is we got to have a drink. That seems to be where all your big items, like it's always around like having a drink. Like you start solving the world's problems, but actually like really doing it. So.
Hey, the scary part is, and I know my wife will attest to this, is I'll say something crazy now, like, since we've been together, whether it's with grid, whether it's my personal work or an idea. And what's scary is I'll have that drink on Saturday night, but Sunday morning I'm running down and chasing this idea out and figuring out what's going on with it. And hell, this is how I'm here, like.
I mean, clarity. A lot of true words are spoken through spirits. So I will say that. All right, gentlemen, I appreciate the time. Good luck. Best of luck this season. If there's anything I can do for you, hey, you know where I'm at. Reach out to me.
Thanks, man. Those who stay, baby.
That is Matt. Yeah, of course. That's Matt Hornaday and Matt Evans of the Palm Beach Breakers. If you like hearing the Matt's story, or you just like hearing us average Joes talk X's and O's, please like, share the podcast on Facebook, retweet us on X, listen and subscribe wherever you stream your podcast. And as always, go over to YouTube and do 3 things. Hit like, hit subscribe, hit notifications. That way you are the first to know when new content is uploaded. We have a library, a collection for all you sports fans out there. Yes, there's plenty of grid stuff out there. There's college baseball. There's professional baseball. There's college gymnastics. There's so much to dive into. I appreciate the support. Go check it out. Listen to a few. Give us some feedback. Hearts, hugs, love. We'll take it all. And I'll see everybody. Now, listen, there's a lot going on. The Palm Beach Breakers are just taking over. And let me explain to you what we got. All right. We have tomorrow, ending the week, baby. We got Evan Newman, Josh Newell. I mean, Josh is now a 2-time guest. Evan is going to give us his story. We're going to get the Alabama Combine from Josh's perspective, his expectations and goals for the next season. But it's going to be a good one. We're going to end the week on a positive note. Can't wait to talk to those guys. As always, remember, strong body, sharp minds, grit and grind all the time. I'll see y'all jabronis tomorrow. Later.